Something strange is happening in America right now, and you've probably felt it. Whole states aren't just losing people, they're being abandoned. Not slowly, not gently, more like people hit a breaking point and said, "Yeah, I'm done." Packed the car and never looked back. And let me ask you, have you ever driven through a town that felt too quiet? Like the gas station lights flicker, the only restaurant closed at 3 p.m., and you start wondering, does anyone even live here anymore? That's the vibe in some of these states, because the truth goes way beyond bad weather or expensive rent. We're talking about cultural collapse, traditions fading, main streets dying, entire communities aging out, roads crumble, schools shrink, hospitals vanish, and the economy starts to feel like a ghost version of what it used to be. In some places, the land itself is disappearing under storms, flooding, or erosion. It's wild. You'll see places where your closest neighbor might be a deer. A tropical paradise locals are fleeing because they can't afford to stay. And yes, one state literally pays people to live there. And folks still say, no thanks. So, would you move to any of these states? Let's dive into the 10 states Americans just aren't choosing anymore, and why. Hawaii. Hawaii is paradise, yes, but it's a paradise people are quietly sneaking out of, and not in small numbers either. Over 12,000 residents left last year, which is wild when you think about how many people dream of moving in. It's like everyone on the mainland is saying, I'm going to retire in Maui, while the people actually living in Maui are Googling flights to Vegas. The median home price is $1.1 million, and that's for something you'll probably still have to patch when it rains sideways. A basic one-bedroom, $2,400 a month. Groceries run 67% higher than the mainland average. A carton of eggs can hit $9, and a simple loaf of bread can cost $6 or $7, which feels less like shopping and more like someone's running an island-themed prank show. If you're thinking, okay, but the wages must be good, right? Nope. Wages in Hawaii have basically been frozen while tourism explodes. The hotels are packed, the flights are full, but the people working in those hotels and airports are juggling 2 jobs just to stay afloat. Nurses, teachers, hospitality workers, folks who should be stable, are tapping out. And then there's the housing mess. Entire neighborhoods are turning into high-end vacation rentals owned by mainland investors. Locals walk down their old streets and realize half the houses have no lights on, no families inside, just empty Airbnbs waiting for the next wave of tourists. The painful part? The people leaving are the ones who are Hawaii, its culture, its identity, its roots. What happens next is exactly what you think. Shrinking school class sizes, homes sitting empty, families moving to Vegas so often that it's literally called the 9th island, now generations letting go of land that's been in their families forever. And the everyday frustration? Oh, it's real. Imagine paying $25 for a poke bowl that used to be $8, or dropping $60 on gas just to drive to a store that's out of what you came for. And don't even trust shipping. Order a toaster and it might show up looking like it swam there. The saddest part? Hawaii hasn't lost its beauty. It's lost the balance. The gap between the dream and the paycheck keeps growing, and for many locals, the math just doesn't work anymore. And if you think Hawaii's situation is rough, wait until you see the next state people are ditching, even though the government keeps insisting everything's fine. West Virginia. West Virginia is one of those places people talk about with love in their voice, right before they pack the truck and move out. And honestly, it's been happening for so long it feels like part of the state's routine. This isn't a sudden shift. West Virginia has been losing population every decade since 1950. Last year alone, more than 18,000 people left. That's not a trickle. That's a whole town turning off the lights. And the wild part? On paper, it should be a bargain. The cost of living is 17% below the national average. You can find homes for around $150,000, the kind of price that makes people in big cities cry into their rent receipts. But here's the catch. What good is a cheap house when the job market looks like a tumbleweed rolling by? The median household income is about $55,000, which sounds decent until you run the math. At that income, sure, you can technically afford a house, if you don't mind a 45-year mortgage, a diet of instant noodles, and choosing between heating the house or heating your leftover pizza. It's like the bank says, congratulations, you're approved, and your wallet says, buddy, please don't do this to us. And the labor force participation rate sits at 54%, the lowest in the entire country. It's like half the state is working, and the other half is staring into the mountains wondering where the work even went. Under the surface, things get heavier. Healthcare access ranks 49th. Opioid overdoses hit heartbreaking levels. And nearly half the counties are labeled distressed economies. That's not a statistic. It's a sign on the state line that basically says, good luck, seriously. Young people feel it the most. College grads leave faster than you can say student loans because the opportunities just aren't here. A local once joked, if you stay here long enough, the mountains start to feel like walls. And honestly, that sums it up. Beautiful? Absolutely. But also isolating in a way that chips at you over time. And then there's the everyday stuff. Wi-Fi that drops every time it rains, roads that look like they've been patched with good intentions, and duct tape politicians showing up every election season talking big, then disappearing like a raccoon you spooked on the porch. Folks are tired. Tired of promises, tired of waiting, tired of watching their kids leave because staying feels like hitting pause on their future. The state's slogan is almost heaven, but depending on who you ask, it sometimes feels more like heaven adjacent, Wi-Fi optional. So here's the real question. Could you live somewhere with cheap houses, quiet nights, and absolutely zero Uber drivers on duty after 9 p.m.? Because if you think West Virginia is emptying out, wait till you see the next state, where the problems run deeper than people want to admit. Illinois. Illinois is the kind of place people love right up until they look at their tax bill and suddenly remember they have opportunities in literally any other state, nearly 800,000 residents left in the last decade. That's not moving. That's evacuating. Between 2020 and 2023 alone, Illinois lost more people than any other state. If that doesn't tell you the vibe, nothing will. And let's talk about the elephant in the room. Property taxes. Some counties are charging around $9,500 a year. That's not a tax bill. That's a subscription service you never signed up for. The cost of owning a home here feels like being mugged politely. Hi, we noticed you live in a house. That'll be 10 grand. Thanks. Meanwhile, the state's sitting on $140+ billion in unfunded pension debt. Billion, with a B. It's like Illinois opened 14 credit cards in college and never paid them off. And the out-migration rate? Up 30% in 5 years. People aren't walking out, they're speed running their escape. And of course, we can't ignore Chicago, an incredible city with amazing food, culture, and energy, and a crime rate 3 times the national average. You can grab world-class deep dish, but you'll probably grab it while checking over your shoulder. The everyday experience? Pure comedy. DMV lines that move slower than emotional healing. Potholes the size of your childhood trauma. Random fees just for breathing near downtown. It's truly death by 1,000 fees, and each one hurts a little more than the last. And the irony is, Illinois has so much going for it. Art, music, architecture, the whole city lights and late-night jazz vibe. But none of that matters when your wallet is being vaporized monthly. People say living here feels like a financial hostage situation. You stay because you love it, but your bank account is begging for mercy. Picture this. You're downtown on a crisp fall day. You've got a scarf, a latte, the whole main character moment thing going. Then your property tax bill arrives, and suddenly you're the side character in a budgeting thriller. The latte curdles, the scarf feels tighter, your dreams quietly leave the group chat. And the cherry on top, even if you survive the taxes, the crime, the debt, boom. Here's a $75 parking ticket for existing slightly too close to a fire hydrant. Deep dish? Delicious. Deep debt? Not so much. So be honest, would you pay nearly $10,000 a year just to live near great pizza and a few improv theaters? Drop deep dish or deep regrets in the comments. And if you think Illinois is rough, just wait till you see the next state, a place that literally pays people to stay and folks still say, nah, I'm good. Alaska. Alaska, the state that looks amazing on postcards but has absolutely no interest in keeping you alive. Seriously, Alaska is like dating someone stunning, mysterious, and adventurous, who also forgets to text you back for 3 weeks. Gorgeous. Yes. Emotionally available? Absolutely not. On paper, it sounds epic. Mountains that look photoshopped, skies that glow neon green, and enough untouched land to find yourself 5 times over. But here's the truth. Nobody on Instagram mentions. People aren't moving to Alaska. People are quietly packing up and sprinting out. The state's been losing residents since 2013. Nearly 40,000 people said, I love you, but I'm leaving. Why? Let's start with the money. The cost of living sits at 24% above the national average, and that's before winter decides to flex. Groceries in rural towns can run at double Seattle prices. Imagine grabbing a carton of eggs and suddenly questioning your entire financial plan. And internet? Let's just say you're not streaming Netflix, you're negotiating with it. And yes, they give you that permanent fund dividend check, but here's the plot twist. It doesn't even cover your heating bill. It's like being handed a coupon for half a sandwich in a restaurant that costs $80 a plate. Then there's the climate. In Barrow, the sun doesn't rise for 65 days. 65. That's not winter blues. That's the universe hitting the dimmer switch on your soul. Seasonal depression isn't a possibility. It's practically part of the welcome packet. And the wild? It has zero interest in your feelings. Groceries aren't a quick errand, they're an expedition. You hop on a snowmobile, spot 2 bears, check your headlamp battery, and hope your fingers don't freeze to the handle. You don't go shopping, you survive it. Plus, Alaska has one of the highest violent crime rates in the country. Yup. Stunning scenery, but statistically sketchier than most big cities on the mainland. And as if the bears weren't enough, the mosquitoes are out here living their best lives, flying in squads like tiny winged mobsters. Forget birds, the mosquito is the real state symbol. And the isolation? Look, Wi-Fi drops so often it should come with a warning label. Medical services might be 200 miles away. Retail? Hope you like whatever's left on the shelf. Alaska isn't broken. It's just not built for beginners. This is a state where you don't call an Uber, you carry emergency flares. Where the landscape doesn't care if you stay or go. And that's exactly why so many people are choosing to leave. So, could you handle a place where grocery shopping feels like a side quest and the sun pieces out for 2 months? Or would you join the 40,000 people who said, yeah, I'm good? Because if you think Alaska's intense, wait until you see the next state. Its biggest problem starts before you even move in. Connecticut. The state that looks rich, sounds rich, and taxes you like you are rich. Even if your bank account is sitting there whispering, please stop. From the outside, Connecticut feels like a lifestyle magazine came to life. Leafy suburbs, fancy coffee shops, prep school catalog vibes. But the truth? It's basically a museum of affluence with a giant blinking exit sign over the door, and lately, everyone's using it. Let's get into why people are quiet quitting this entire state. For starters, the cost of living here is top 5 in the whole country, not just top 10, not just kinda expensive. We're talking, you better be a hedge fund manager, expensive property taxes alone average over $6,500 a year, and in some towns, they climb past $10,000 like it's a competitive sport. Imagine paying 10 grand for the privilege of living near a Whole Foods that closes at 8 p.m. And even with all that money flowing out of residents' pockets, job growth has basically stopped. Wages? Also flat. Unless you're in finance or healthcare, your paycheck is basically doing the mannequin challenge. Meanwhile, the state has lost $12.6 billion in income over the last decade because people aren't just leaving, they're taking their money with them. Here's the vibe shift. Connecticut charges luxury-level taxes but gives you Target-level thrills. Cute town squares, yes. Charming libraries, sure. But the infrastructure? The trains feel like they're reenacting scenes from the 1970s. The highways look like they have commitment issues. Some towns feel so still and perfectly manicured that you expect to see a "Do not touch the displays" sign. And let's talk about the people leaving. Half of them are heading south, not for beaches, not for fresh starts, but purely for lower taxes. That's it. The dream isn't palm trees, it's keeping more of your paycheck. What's wild is that Connecticut sits between 2 expensive giants, New York and Massachusetts, and yet it's somehow losing more people than both. You know things are sliding when folks say, you know what? Jersey actually sounds nice. And look, Connecticut isn't crumbling. Nothing dramatic like that. It's something worse. It's calcifying, stuck, frozen, beautiful on the surface but hollowing out underneath. The kind of place where everything looks perfect. As long as you don't check the tax bill, the job listings, or the number of moving trucks pulling onto I-95. Man, so if you've ever wondered what it feels like to live in a postcard that slowly drains your savings, Connecticut's got you. But stick around, because the next state on this list charges high prices and delivers emotional chaos. Mississippi. Imagine waking up looking around and realizing your entire state has quietly started packing its bags. That's Mississippi right now. It's like the place keeps promising, next year will be different, but every year shows up with the same haircut, same job, same problems. Mississippi is basically that partner who swears they'll change every decade, and people are noticing. The state's been emptying out so steadily you'd think there was a giant now-leaving conveyor belt running under the border. Since 2010, more residents have left than arrived every single year. Mississippi isn't just losing people, it's leaking them. Let's talk about why folks are heading for the exits. The median household income sits at about $53,000, the lowest in the entire country. Not bottom 5, not pretty low. Number 51. And with a poverty rate around 19%, nearly twice the national average, it's not hard to understand why people feel stuck. The education ranking, 47th place healthcare access, bottom 5. And Mississippi holds the highest infant mortality rate in America. Not exactly a selling point when you're trying to start a family. Half the counties in the state are officially designated as persistently poor. That's a real federal label, not something I made up after a sad road trip. It means the poverty's been there for decades and refuses to leave, kind of like a relative who says they'll stay just for the weekend. And here's the vibe. Mississippi isn't lazy, and it's not lacking culture. In fact, the culture is unbelievable. Blues, barbecue, history, soul, storytelling. This state shaped American music. But it's stuck in this loop the rest of the country stopped watching. Young people leave because opportunity is somewhere else. The older generation stays because home is home. And everyone in the middle is trying to survive the in-between. Investment is low, jobs are limited, crime is high, social programs are thin. It's a place where broadband counts as a luxury item. Take a 30-minute drive outside Jackson and you'll feel like someone switched the calendar back to 1998. And the billboards? It's always the same 3 categories: lawyers, churches, or payday loans. Sometimes all on one sign, like a life cycle. And here's a comparison that stings. Jackson, Mississippi has one of the highest homicide rates in the country. Meanwhile, Madison, Alabama, literally next door, is one of the safest, fastest growing cities in the South, same region, same weather, entirely different realities. Mississippi breaks your heart because it has everything except what people need to stay: opportunity, investment, and a sense that things are getting better, not worse. So, would you choose culture over convenience, soul over stability? Drop Mississippi heart or Alabama paycheck in the comments, because the next state on this list proves things can get even messier. Louisiana. Louisiana is disappearing faster than your paycheck on payday. The coastline is shrinking like it's trying to ghost the entire Gulf of Mexico. At this rate, Louisiana might not leave the US. It might literally slip out the back door and no one notices until someone says, "Hey, wasn't there more land here last week?" But even the toughest people eventually look around and say, "Okay, maybe this is too much." And that's exactly what's happening. Louisiana isn't just losing land, it's losing people. Since 2016, nearly 200,000 residents have packed up. The state is literally emptying out faster than you can pronounce étouffé. Even worse, Louisiana loses a football field of coastline every hour. Every hour. You could watch a game and lose 4 coastlines before halftime. Meanwhile, the state ranks dead last in infrastructure quality. Roads? More potholes than pavement. Power grid? Let's just say your lights have trust issues. The money situation doesn't help either. The average household income sits at about $57,000, while the national average is pushing $75,000, and the violent crime rate, second only to DC. So yes, the culture is incredible, but the daily struggle is louder. And then we get to insurance, Louisiana's personal villain origin story. The insurance market is collapsing. Companies are bailing out. Some homeowners now pay more for insurance than rent, which should be illegal unless it comes with a free boat and emotional support Alligator, New Orleans. Over half the renters are considered cost-burdened. The paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle doesn't just exist here, it pays property taxes. The heartbreaking part is that Louisiana isn't lacking spirit, it's just worn out. Resilience has an expiration date. People who rebuilt after Katrina, people who refuse to leave in the worst moments, are quietly giving up now. Love for your hometown doesn't pay for rising premiums. Culture doesn't keep floodwater out of your living room. You can only patch the same roof so many times before gravity wins. Imagine standing outside in thick, humid air that feels like it's hugging you against your will. You hear brass music, smell crawfish boils, maybe pass a porch where someone's laughing like it's a full-time job. That's the magic. But beneath it, there's this constant fatigue, like the whole state is whispering, "I don't know how many more hits I can take." Louisiana's charm is undefeated, but charm doesn't fix levees, rebuild houses, or lower crime stats. It doesn't fight back when insurance companies leave. It doesn't raise wages. And slowly, the pull of the culture is getting outweighed by the push of the reality. So yeah, people aren't leaving because they want to. They're leaving because staying is a full contact sport. And if you think this state is running out of patience, wait until you see the next one, where the bills pile up even faster than the water. North Dakota. North Dakota is like that ex who seemed fun until you realize they live in a snowbank with no Wi-Fi and a passive-aggressive attitude toward your existence. Seriously, the cold here doesn't just bite. It writes you a strongly worded letter, puts it in ice, and slaps it on your windshield. Once upon a time, Williston was the place to be. People were sleeping in their trucks, renting trailers for $2,500 a month, making six-figure salaries, and thinking, yeah, this is adulting. Then the oil boom crashed. Fast forward. Rents for a 3-bedroom dropped to $800, and now the nightlife consists of Casey's General Store and a prayer. Not exactly club vibes. Here's the reality check. In 2023, over 5,000 residents left the state. Oil and gas employment is down 8.4% over the last 5 years. And weather, more than 50 sub-zero days a year. That's not a metaphor. Your eyelashes literally freeze together. Population density, less than 11 people per square mile. Perfect if you want to feel alone without technically being alone. The fallout hit rural towns hardest. Economies that bet on oil are now deserts of empty streets and shuttered businesses. Folks who came for big paychecks left faster than the snow melts in June. Those who stayed, they get treated to isolation, darkness, and a climate that insults you personally. Your car battery hates you, your snot becomes a popsicle, and your morning coffee freezes mid-sip. A Redditor summed it up perfectly. North Dakota is perfect if you want to feel alone without technically being alone. And honestly, that's generous isolation here can be romantic. Until it's 3:30 p.m. and the sun has already dipped below the horizon. Your only social interaction? Arguing with your own echo. Meanwhile, Florida is a swamp of chaos, crime, and humidity, and yet more people move there in a week than North Dakota gains in a year. The irony? Alligators are somehow less isolating than bison. So yeah, North Dakota isn't failing, it's just brutally honest about what it offers. And if sub-zero loneliness and economic whiplash aren't your vibe, you're out. If you thought North Dakota was cold and lonely, wait until you see the next state, where the ghosts themselves are packing up and moving out. New Jersey. New Jersey isn't just a state. It's like that cousin who promises a fun weekend, then hits you with 1,000 rules, fees, and a side of chaos. Honestly, it's an escape room you pay property taxes in. Here's the deal. In 2023 alone, over 65,000 people left New Jersey. That's nearly 2,000 a week. Property taxes? #1 in the nation, averaging $9,500 a year cost of living, 14% above the US average. Rent in Hoboken for a 1-bedroom, $2,980 a month. And sure, the job market exists. If you enjoy 90-minute commutes to cubicles in Manhattan, a $16 bridge toll every morning, and a side of existential dread with your latte. It's the classic Jersey trap. You stay for nostalgia, diners, Bruce Springsteen, spaghetti at 3 a.m., and the occasional boardwalk sunset. You leave when nostalgia stops paying the mortgage. And let's talk infrastructure for a second. Jug handles, potholes, tolls everywhere. Want to make a left turn? First you drive right, spin around a Dunkin' Donuts, dodge a pothole the size of a small child, and pray you end up where you meant to. Driving here is basically Mario Kart with taxes. Longtime locals are quietly bailing, trading jug handles for driveways that actually exist, and traffic lights that don't mock them personally. And the irony? New Jersey has more diners than any other state, yet somehow nobody looks happy eating in them. Burnt coffee, judgmental waiters, and your neighbor mowing angrily since 2003, this is the reality. Meanwhile, just across the border, you can grab a 4-bedroom home, keep your paycheck, and hear live music that isn't just honking cars. Sure, Jersey's close to everything, except peace of mind. So yeah, New Jersey isn't broken. It's just brutally honest about what it costs to exist there. A mix of nostalgia, chaos, and extreme property taxes. Stay too long and even the pizza stops making sense. And if you think New Jersey is bad, wait until you see the final state on our list. The ultimate, why does anyone still live here, boss? Trust me, it's going to make your last tax bill feel like a vacation. Puerto Rico. Imagine a place where your Instagram looks perfect, your tan is enviable, but your electricity bill makes you question your life choices. Welcome to Puerto Rico, where paradise comes with a side of existential dread. The beaches are unreal, the salsa is infectious, and the sunsets? Chef's kiss. But the power grid? That's more unreliable than your ex's promises. You flip the switch and sometimes, nothing. Your fridge silently judges you, your Wi-Fi sulks, and the only thing consistent is the humidity, and the numbers back up the heartbreak. Since 2010, over 500,000 people have left the island, more than 14% of its population. Why? Not because they hate pina coladas, but because survival here is basically a full-time job. Unemployment sits at 6%, double the US average. Poverty rate? 41.7%. Median household income? A jaw-dropping $21,967, lower than any state. Meanwhile, hurricanes, blackouts, and infrastructure failures make every day a guessing game. Will your lights turn on, or will your fridge need therapy? Puerto Rico is American enough to pay taxes and serve in the military, yet not quite American enough for disaster relief or voting rights in Congress. It's like being legally married but emotionally ghosted. You're expected to contribute, adapt, and smile, all while the system treats you like an optional extra locals joke that your patience better be solar-powered, because the electricity certainly isn't. Flooding, rolling blackouts, and budget constraints are just part of the daily scenery. Life here is absurdly beautiful and painfully frustrating at the same time. Tourists snap flawless selfies while locals juggle candlelight dinners, rationed water, and Wi-Fi that works if you say the magic password 3 times. Hurricanes aren't just weather events. They're existential reminders that paradise doesn't equal stability. You're not just tired, you're tired of being tired. And with each blackout, each failed promise of recovery, more residents quietly pack up and leave. Puerto Rico isn't in decline. It's a place that never fully got to rise. Gorgeous, rich in culture, and endlessly resilient, yet constantly tested by forces bigger than any one person. People leave not because they want adventure. They leave to survive, to find somewhere the lights actually work, and the government's not perpetually on vacation. So would you stay for the sunsets and salsa, or would you chase somewhere that keeps the lights on? Drop your thought in the comments, and let's see who's brave enough to navigate this ultimate contradiction. And hey, if you've survived a blackout long enough to tell the tale, hit that like button and subscribe. This channel is basically your emotional support for places that look perfect but don't play fair.